Hello, and welcome back to me playing CK3 on the hardest possible rule settings, starting as a Duke of Bohemia in 1066. So a lot of changes and stuff we have to look at the beginning of the video here. At the end of the last video, our original character, Vraslav I, finally died, leaving us as his handpicked successor. Um, our current character is Vraslav II. As you can see, he has quite good personality traits. Is a 4-star stewardship character, so all very good stuff there. You'll see that only has a domain limit of 3 because we're playing with the rule that players only get a -3 domain limit as part of playing the hardest rule set. Without that rule, obviously he'd be totally fine in the number of counties he's holding. So the first thing let's do is get his lifestyle chosen. We talked about before about there's really no reason to go with this middle focus. +3 stewardship doesn't really matter as much anymore given the change to how domain limit is calculated away from stewardship and toward character's education. Duty focus is potentially useful if you're governing a really large realm, but we're not. And so generally speaking, wealth focus is the obvious one, probably the one you want to pick 90-95% of the time. You see here that he's already got a decent ways down the architect tree. My original plan had been to take him down the wealth tree first, the avaricious tree here, but it may be worth finishing off the building tree first before going in there, especially to get divided attention, which gives another domain limit. Our plan with him is to immediately have a max level coronation, and then after that send him to university. Hopefully he can become 5-star stewardship education like his father. So other things we need to consider here. We do want to train for tournaments. That's something I failed to do with his father, but you can get pretty good benefits here, including simply well trained, which gives you more likelihood of winning tournaments and thus more experience for a hostile looter trait. And I've talked repeatedly about how important that is. Fortunately, it did not work out there. We do like to develop our capital, so we'll take that decision. There's a university visit we will take. Going to grand tournaments is great. I'll certainly be doing a lot of that hopefully later, but for now it's not terribly useful. In terms of isolating our capital, there's a small flew to our east in Poland, which we'll be talking about more shortly. I don't think we need to isolate our capital in our seclusion. Instead, what we really want to do is have a coronation. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the map. So at the beginning of last episode, I talked about all the reasons why I don't do a lot of conquest early on when I'm playing on these most challenging rule sets. But then I said, and the second big reason there is because of the likelihood that scourge conquerors will simply come and conquer whatever kingdom where you've obtained new territory and take it all away from you. But at the time, at the beginning of the last episode, I said, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here to get some more territory. Looks like there weren't any scourge conquerors that were that close at the beginning of last episode, and so I went ahead and conquered Poland as one does. The problem here, as you can see, is that things can change very quickly at this level of difficulty. And we now have the Cumans, who are led by a great conqueror with just a massive, massive army who is right to our east. And more concerning, he is attacking Poland, which is one of the two kingdoms we hold, the other one being Bohemia. And we are going to lose Poland. There's simply nothing that we can do, nothing our liege can do to stop that from happening. Losing Poland is bad. Means we largely wasted a lot of our time and money in the last episode. There's simply nothing to be done. And we don't have any of our personal domain in Poland, so at least we won't lose any of that. Instead, all of our personal domain is in the Kingdom of Bohemia. And we really want to make sure that Bohemia does not get invaded, because that would be disastrous. We also have this other scourge conqueror to our west here. You can see he owns a huge domain in West Africa, most of Spain, and now he as a Muslim has occupied France. He's taking the kingdom of Burgundy. He's currently fighting the Byzantines for Pontus up here in the northern Anatolia. So looking to see how long he still has a truce with the HRE, and I'm not seeing it. So his truce with the HRE may be up. He may be attacking the HRE again very soon once he gets done with the Byzantine Empire. You can see Britannia over here owning all the British Isles as well as Norway, currently not ruled by a scourge conqueror. But what happened is this guy from Wales became a scourge conqueror early in the game, had conquered all of the British Isles, Norway, France, and into Spain. Then he died, left a 70-year-old as his heir, who I believe is matured into this guy. 70-year-olds can't inherit the scourge, any conqueror trait, and so as you see, this guy does not have the scourge conqueror, but even so, he's managed to hold his realm together pretty well. That said, I think if he's not going to have any chance if the Almoravids attack him to try to take England. So we also want to look at our factions. We have two factions that popped up basically as soon as our father died and we became his successor. Nothing terribly surprising about that. Again, we have two levels in the game rules that make vassals more likely to join factions and rebel against us. And so almost every succession, you're going to have some factions. Now we see, two of these factions are to put someone on the Polish throne, meaning we would lose the Kingdom of Poland. Obviously, we just don't really care about this because we are going to be losing the Kingdom of Poland anyway. It's going to be going to the Cumans, and we really can't stop that. Also see we have a pretty powerful Liberty faction. Liberty factions are incredibly common, so that's again not a surprise. We are currently on High Crown Authority 3. Getting the High Crown Authority 4 is very valuable for this reason. Rulers can designate their heir. We are currently on House Seniority, which normally means that if we die, the oldest member of our house becomes our heir. That person is probably going to be someone that we haven't educated. We have no idea what their personality traits are. They're very likely to have a poor education outcome, which really hurts the domain limit. So we do not want our oldest house member to inherit. And one way to do that is to designate our heir. As you saw earlier, one way of designating your heir is to have a king title and then elevate one of your children as your co-monarch. There are some downsides to that, one of which is your child has to be an adult, at least 16 years old. You can't elevate them before that. Second is, when you elevate them, they become your entrenched regent, and it's very difficult to get rid of them afterwards. So if for some reason you decide, hey, I want this guy to be my co-monarch, but then maybe you have another child later who's even better, and you want to switch your designated heir, very hard to do that if you've already elevated someone as your co-monarch. By contrast, if you have absolute crown authority, I believe it costs 1,000 prestige to designate someone as your heir, but much easier. And so I don't think we want to go to level 4 crown authority now, given that we do have this Liberty faction, but it's something that we certainly want to do at some point. Now, in terms of factions often look worse than they really are before you've held your coronation. The coronation can make a decent number of factions go away. You also see here, very importantly, we have quite a large amount of gold, which means we can bribe people, we can take other actions to try to get rid of those factions without having them fire. So one thing I want to do here is clean up our pinned characters. Talked before about I like having myself, my spouse, and then all my children pinned so I can see them quickly. Our wife is quite a bit older than us at this point. She's unlikely to have any more children. We do have 2 children, including an intelligent son, which is very good. We've earlier decided to make him martial education. He was being educated by his grandfather, who's now passed away. We will certainly want to educate him ourselves. Sending him to university would be great, but even though we have lots of money, university is just really too expensive to do at this stage of the game. So we will just educate him normally. We see here we can have him study a language. And we can think about the only other trait we give him is brave, which because he's martial, we definitely do want to give him brave. But what I'm thinking is we let him get a 3rd trait on his own. We'll get the choice of picking from 3 traits, and then after he gets that trait, we try to make him brave by influencing his personality. Normally, characters only have 3 personality traits, but you can influence their personality to give them a 4th trait. Can't do any beyond that, though. So often I would start with romancing our wife, but again, we are likely to try to get divorced from her, which is going to be difficult. So we're going to be thinking about how to get the Pope on our side to agree to divorce our wife, bribe off some pilgrimages, swaying the Pope, whatever else we can do. We'll look at our courtier positions here. Make sure we have good people and the ones that we want. We want to maintain the 4 positions that prevent people from, or at least mitigate the chances of people murdering us. Cupbearer, food taster, our 2 bodyguards. I think we probably will want to get a high almoner just to get more. Get more piety, get the Pope's opinion of us up. Higher our piety is, more likely to let us divorce our wife, and we will try to find another either intelligent or ideally genius wife. Okay. For our council, at least at the start, I think we generally want to have our powerful vassals in there. Now, to a large extent, many of these powerful vassals are going to be going away. And it's also unfortunate that these 2 powerful vassals just have poor stats. So maybe we don't do that. The choice between, I think generally I have a bias toward appointing my powerful vassals, but their stats are just, really inadequate. Often I'll try to take a pass. These 2 guys are obviously our cousins, and so even once Poland goes away, they're going to still be with us. So we may have to give them something or do something to them to get them on side. So here we can form some alliances. I was hoping we'd get some internal alliances with our family members to prevent them from joining factions against us, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. For these duchies, one of our issues is, we're holding 3 duchies too many. One of the easy choices here is to get rid of the duchies that are in Poland because they're going away anyway, and that will improve the opinion of whoever gets them. And let's see here. And also may get rid of some rebellious vassals, because if there are rebellious count vassals here, they will then instead become vassals of these dukes instead of my direct vassals. So we definitely are going to be holding on to Bohemia. There's a question here about, do we want to get rid of either Moravia or Nordgau? Moravia is part of the Bohemian Kingdom. It's also where some of our family members rule. I think our family members are the only ones that rule there. House members, I should say. Nordgau is this piece of Bavaria over here. It has 5 counts. I know some of those counts are being rebellious. Perhaps our best option here. So it's either, because we do want to get rid of the opinion malice here. So it's either, giving Arabia or Nordgau to an appropriate count within that duchy. I think let's go with with Nordgau. And generally, I like to give titles to my family members, but I don't have any family members in this area. If not a family member, then I just give it to whoever holds the county with the potential for a duchy building, so that they can build that and hopefully contribute more taxes and levies to me. And obviously, we have now greatly improved that guy's opinion of us. So it's like here we can. I think this is our brother, and I think let's hold off on that. We've looked at some alliances. Okay, currently our daughter is betrothed to a beautiful man, so I can understand why I made that betrothal earlier. I think let's break the betrothal unless there are too many penalties, and there are not. And instead, take a look at, can we get a powerful alliance? And actually, it doesn't look like we can get an alliance that's any better than the one that was offered with Steiermark, who is our cousin. So I guess let's leave her unmarried for a while. Go ahead and get this alliance with our brother-in-law. And he is fighting someone. Maybe we don't do that alliance now, and we do our coronation first, and come back to that. Maybe his war will be concluded. We don't have to worry about him dragging us into it. Coronations are very powerful. You basically want to do them as soon as possible, so long as you have the money. Since we do have some factions, we want to impress attendees. We'll go with maximum for both of the options here. And then let the game run. Bit unfortunate he doesn't want to make us steward instead, but I guess we will accept Spymaster. For this one, these are sort of debatable, but I think at least for now, let's go with the prestige gain. Will help with vassal opinion. The more we get our prestige up, our levels of fame up. Here, I think we will. Guess we'll go with him. Again, it's really debatable because their opinion of us is so, their stats are quite bad, but their opinion of us is so low. We do want to get their opinion up a little bit. Hopefully the coronation will do that. You can already see the Liberty faction is below the threshold, so that's great. Again, these people that want Poland, I will definitely let them have it, because, again, we're not going to have Poland very long. Here we can see Kaiser Heinrich's troops marching to try to defend Poland. Best of luck to them. tutor educating our children. And there we see Kaiser Heinrich's armies getting absolutely obliterated. And he looks like he got completely stacked wiped. For this, we wanted to give it to our Diarmir here, since he is one of our vassals. Unlike usually a realm priest is landless, he actually holds land, and we want him to have a higher opinion of us. Lost another, really losing some counselors here. Guess we'll have our powerful vassals occupy all those. Oh, and we already lost the war. And so obviously we lost Poland. So losing Poland is unfortunate, but again, obviously it was going to happen. The bigger concern is the Cumans now have a 5-year truce with the HRE, but after that ends, they're going to be able to use Poland to attack somewhere else within the HRE. My expectation and hope, and I do think my expectation based on prior play, is that they will try to go to Germany, which is fine. It will further destabilize the HRE. We'll have to start making decisions about, do we want to try to declare independence from the HRE or not. But obviously that's vastly better than if he attacks into Bohemia, which we spent all our time up until now developing. If we lose Bohemia, then that's basically disastrous, and likely we'll have to go to landless play, or depending on, we could be stuck here with a single county in the Duchy of Nordgau, which also would be very unfortunate. Almirov is still fighting the Byzantines. It looks like it's going pretty well for them. One thing we could hope for is that these scourge conquerors die and that we get lucky and their heirs don't inherit. We can see here he's 67. All scourge conquerors have this huge health boost from scourge-of-the-gods. But one of the interesting things is with the recent elder traits. The elder traits really seem to shorten the life of scourge conquerors. I was playing games with a similar rule set before the elder traits came in, and often scourge conquerors would live until the late 80s, even early 90s. But now, as they get older, they accumulate fragile bones, which literally takes years off your life. And usually they just keep moving and fighting and exacerbating that. And so I think the elder traits simply shorten their lives. These guys might die in their mid to late 70s. This one doesn't have any. This is the Muslim great conqueror over here in France and other territories. He does not yet have any elder traits, even though he's 71. Just another extremely powerful character. So we may want to sit tight, see what happens when these scourge conquerors die. Now, in terms of game rules, we do have that when scourge conquerors die, all their heirs inherit the scourge conqueror trait. Despite having that game rule, that is not what always happens. Sometimes, often many heirs do not inherit scourge of the gods when a scourge conqueror dies. Sometimes that makes perfect sense. People who are not independent cannot be a conqueror. So if there's someone who has a single empire title and they have 8 sons, one son gets the empire title, the other 7 are either landless or get land where they are vassals under that eldest son. Those 7 clearly can't be conquerors. Or if someone's a child, they can't be a conqueror. So if a child inherits, that's actually what happened with this Welsh great conqueror that used to be over here. That child cannot be a conqueror. But also, you'll see even sometimes the eldest son who becomes the emperor, the main heir, will not get the scourge conqueror trait, or will lose it very quickly. And I'm not exactly sure why. I sometimes think it has to do with certain personality traits. If someone particularly is craven or lazy or content, it seems like they're less likely to inherit the scourge conqueror trait. Unfortunately, it looks like both these Scourge Conquerors have heirs that don't have anything that would prevent them from inheriting, so we'll just have to see how it goes. There's also always the possibility that when there's succession, the AI will try to revolt because we're playing on very hard difficulty. The AI is less likely to join factions or revolt against another AI ruler, but it could still happen here. Especially, this guy's ruling a bunch of Catholics who might be interested in revolting against him. The other issue that could happen is they could, people could die from plague. We could have a Black Death sweep through. We were on unlimited random Black Deaths. They could hit at any time and potentially take out, Scourge Conquerors and fundamentally reshape the map. But with all that discussed, well, one last other thing to discuss is who do we want to be HRE Emperor. I still think it's us. Unfortunately, we're only going to be second in line, it looks like. The HRE is facing a lot of challenges now, particularly because it has to, somehow neutralize two different Scourge Conquerors. Neutralizing one Scourge Conqueror is very easy. You just pledge tribute, and that means you have to pay them some gold. But the Scourge Conqueror and AI generally will never attack a tributary. Doesn't seem like it will ever end a tributary relationship for purposes of attacking you. So that easily neutralizes one. But neutralizing the second one is more challenging in terms of either trying to find an alliance with them or doing something that would prevent them from attacking you. So even if we do take over the HRE, it's going to be an interesting challenge to juggle these two if both of these realms continue to be ruled by Scourge Conquerors. Now, with all that talking, let's continue. I believe we already have a good weapon, but we might as well get another one. So these are all fellow vassals. I mean, I think we just, it's unfortunate to have them as rivals, but they're not. But I think I'd rather do that than go down to 0 magnificence, which would happen otherwise. So, and the problem with having rivals is your rivals try to kill you. We've done, I think, as much as we can to prevent that. We'll just have to see what happens. Wait, what is? So they still want the title of Poland, even though I don't own any land in it. Maybe that's okay. I think let's go here. I mean, don't think we actually have any Franconian culture in our realm. It looks like the guys over here, Nordgau, are more Bavarians. So let's try to get our magnificence up. Okay. And so our liege just died. His titles were passed on to his son, who was actually younger than us. So we probably aren't going to be worried about becoming HRE Emperor anytime soon. Though again, always possible. This Kaiser Heinrich V dies from disease or being wounded, dying in a joust. Plenty of ways. So we just have to see how that develops. We could give away the Duchy of Moravia to get rid of at least one of these, or multiple one of these rebellious vassals. We don't have any of our domain within Moravia, so it's fine to give it away. Again, I think let's just give him Moravia, again, it does make us lose some taxes and levies. Means that we have fewer vassals to go to. Oh, actually, I guess that's more counties than I thought. Well, let's see what happens at the end of the coronation then. This one, pick this option just to avoid stress. Seems like you always, lose a little bit of prestige there. Here, I think let's do the top one, try to avoid losing guest opinion. We'll decline the heretic blessings to get more opinion with our vassals. The piety, since we want to get up levels of devotion to make the Pope like us, and so we can divorce our wife. Certainly don't want a nemesis who will try to murder us. Take the stewardship experience instead. Guess we'll become this person's friend. So here you'll get a little bit more magnificence. Prague gets some good benefits there. We could kill one of our cousins, I think. I mean, we have a much higher prowess, but it's always risky. We'd lose 10 opinion. We would gain 30 dread. I mean, the problem is if things go wrong and we end up dying, and this guy becomes our oldest brother becomes ruler. He does have 2 virtuous traits, but he has he's only a 3-star education. He's an intrigue character who's going to have traits that prevent him from doing most intrigue things because of the massive stress they'll generate. So he's just a bit of a weird character, and don't think I want to play with him. One of my themes for playing on these most challenging rule set is to be conservative. So let's be conservative here. Again, probably won't need to convert anyone, so we'll take the lower option. Let's make sure the crown is actually upon my brow. So, what happens if we do? So we don't really want to murder her, we just want to divorce her. So we'll just go with the top option for now. Definitely want to ensure peace here, I think. The biggest benefit is we get domain limit +1 for this character's entire life. That's just a huge benefit given the -3 domain limit rule. And we also get lots of development, other bonuses. So I think ensure peace. I almost always go for ensure peace just because the domain limit is so significant. And we're not going with this character. We're not going to be immediately going out and try to picking a fight. And even later in the game, if hopefully everything goes well and we have very powerful martial characters, I usually still will go with ensure peace because it's have them spend 5 years going to tournaments, getting the various perks, building up their power before they go on and start attacking. So, and I mean we can look at the others, but ensure peace is I think the clear winner here. Does mean we may want to look more into neutralizing the factions, including just by bribing them, because we do have a lot of gold. Here, I think it's worth it taking the chance of increasing our magnificence, which we actually did, but not quite enough to hit that 4th level. We're 1 point away. Really would be good to hit it. If there's any way to do that, this will become closer to having a friendship with one of our vassals. Probably don't really need cultural acceptance. The faith of our supporters. Sadly, we were 1 point away from getting some nice benefits, but that is what it is. With the coronation, so that guy should drop out, which should get rid of the Liberty faction, I believe. You know, it looks like these, you know, people still want to give her the title of Poland, which, I mean, I literally do not think I hold any part of Poland, so the title is going to be destroyed soon anyway. So that's fine with me, if that's what they want to do. So we'll just give away the King of Poland title when they demand it. So he could go to this tournament, but I think the most important thing to do now is to go to university, see if we can become a 5-star education, and also, you know, ideally we will get enough perks to get divided attention, get more domain limit. So often I like to have my wife go to patronage, increased learning, since that's what most of the university events are based on. Her learning isn't that great, but it's still a little bit of a benefit, so we will go with that. Okay, we see, you know, the Liberty faction dropped below the military threshold. Don't have to worry about it anymore. And for this, you know, we're really want whatever makes our studies more successful. You know, we do have to balance that a little bit with stress, where there's a choice between success in our studies versus stress. So let's get this. You know, this is one of our relatives, just born. Let's see if we can find, you know, he's intelligent, so let's see if we can find him someone else who is intelligent, who has, or at least has some sort of good genetic traits that we could get him betrothed to. While we're at it, let's check for our own son. Among other children, we don't have to get him betrothed now, but just wanted to see if there was someone who was a genius or even intelligent. There does not seem to be, which is unfortunate. But we don't have to get him betrothed now, so we'll just wait. So here our studies, this option both drops our stress and increases our study success by the most. So a clear option, clear choice there. So I think because of the relatively low chance of learning the language here, just 40%, that we just take the stress hit here. So our wife, despite her age, apparently she got, normally 45 is the cutoff for women to have children. There are ways to extend that. Primarily, the fecund trait gives another 5 years. But you can have a woman get pregnant at 45, give birth at 46. That's what happened here. So we do get, you know, an intelligent daughter, which is good. Would have been even better if it was an intelligent son, but, you know, still someone who we can use to advance our genetic program. This, I think we just sort of a coin flip. I think we just risk it and hope we don't get the stress. Thankfully, we didn't. So up to it's tier 2 in our studies. Maybe we can get to tier 3. This is another sort of coin flip. I think we just take it. Fortunately, it didn't work, but get the option to take a very useful stress reduction trait, and we'll just pin that stress reduction decision. So that actually worked out to the positive. Unfortunately, it looked like we didn't really do too much. Okay, one more. So I think we go with the top and just hope for the coin flip, which we got. Wow, we got all the way up to 4. Did we get... We did not. We did not become a 5-star, which is unfortunate, but that's life. I guess we'll go with auto. Let's check our books in case we have a book that... I guess we have some other stuff to distribute here. Like having the Dynasty banner above our throne, no particular reason. For these two, guess having court vassal opinion might help. I didn't realize we had all these small wall ornaments we can put up. We certainly want to do that. Now look at the original reason we came in here was for... No, so we only have 3 books. None of them give stewardship experience, so... We do have a number of events here. Often this, even if you give it to someone, it goes away, but Jost is who we want to be our heir, so we definitely want his education looked after. We have a nephew who, if we keep him, get 50 stress, we'll just not host him anymore. Unfortunately, that was our tutor. Probably helps to look at what position he holds, but we have other excellent tutors, so not that much of a concern. Here we will finish up the architect tree, which very usefully does give us a domain limit. So now we have a domain limit of 4, reduces penalties. Put our wife back to assist ruler. Check if our realm vassal, though he is poor health, I think it's actually more useful to try to sway the Pope. I don't think we hold court now. Work off some stress, get below the stress level. I think let's hold a feast, both to reduce stress and also to make our vassals a bit happier. Check to make sure. Yeah, I really don't know why they want her to hold the Polish king title, but happy to do that. And again, more importantly, this Liberty faction is below the military threshold, so right. Okay, let's hope this is not okay. So I think most people probably know this, but when one ruler attacks another, after that war is ended, there's a 5-year truce. There is a perk in diplomacy that shortens that, but let's set that aside. But that truce is specific to the rulers. If if one of the rulers dies, then that truce goes away, and they're both free to go at war again. So what happened is, the Cumans attacked Poland when it was when the Holy Roman Empire was ruled by Heinrich IV. That sets the 5-year truce. But unfortunately, Heinrich IV died. Heinrich V takes over, and that now means the Cumans got to attack again. And so they did. And as you can see here, I have long predicted that Germany would be taken by a scourge conqueror because scourge conquerors just love Germany. They love the kingdom of Germany specifically. And now we can see that's what's going on. And for us, of course, that is the much better option since the choices for the Cumans were either to attack Germany, Kingdom of Germany, or Kingdom of Bohemia. If they attack Kingdom of Bohemia, that is disastrous for us. It set us back, 50 to 100 years. So they attack Germany instead. They're almost certain to win this war, and that will really weaken our liege, since our liege's domains are in fact all in Germany, I believe. So he's going to be a lot weaker. And at that point, we really want to start thinking about: do we want to stay in the Holy Roman Empire? Do we want to become independent and become a tributary of the Cumans? Do we even want to become a vassal of the Cumans? So we'll have to start making some tough decisions. So the Almoravids here, who are the other threat to the Holy Roman Empire from the west, they are currently we're having some Scourge Conqueror on Scourge Conqueror action. The Zukarids here, you can see that they have their own Scourge Conqueror, also an exalted warlord, very powerful character, who's trying to take some of the Anatolia that the Almoravids currently occupy. So hopefully that will keep the Almoravids busy for at least a little while. They're actually less of a threat to us since they don't border Bohemia. They're more likely to go for Lotharingia next, or potentially Italy, or maybe even Germany, though of course that would require them to come into conflict with the Cumans. So, significant foreign relations developments, and we'll just continue on with our feast. I'm curious if we are. We're still second in line. Guess to the son of the current HRE Emperor. So usually like getting household efforts, get 5 direct vassal opinion is useful. Arguably more useful than the prestige. If you really need prestige, of course you go the other way. If you're playing tribal, where prestige is more important, you want to go the other way. I think here I'm more concerned about my. Let's see, where is this brother? Oh, he's just okay. He's unlanded. Well, in that case, I think restrain my brother since he can't really do that much to me. Okay, so we got household efforts again. So let's fully de-stress, or almost fully de-stress here. So done. We got some. Vassal opinion, so these, her military power is now less than ours. If we really wanted to, we could probably fight off this, especially, You could ally with Steiermark. Speaking of which, let's look again at what is going on there. He is almost done with his war. He seems quite powerful, though a lot of that's coming from mercenaries, but even without them, he has quite a good army. Let's take another look about whether we can get a strong alliance to our daughter. So allying with the HRE doesn't really help us. Obviously, Britannia has a quite strong military. I think the concern is their empire is so large and not ruled by a scourge conqueror anymore. They're likely to be fighting a lot of wars that they'll try to drag us into. Don't really have any interest in that. This guy has a lot of levies, partly because he probably has a really high prestige. Well, I guess not. I guess he's had a lot of levies. Hungary is something where it's certainly an option. I think it looks like Steiermark actually has a stronger military. We don't want to get involved with the Byzantines, who are very likely to be at constant war. So I think we just go ahead and cement, these two alliances. One with Steiermark, who's our brother-in-law. The other one, Prince Boleslav, who is, I believe, I guess where is he? Thought he was in Poland somewhere, and indeed he is. He holds the Duchy of Lesser Poland, so that's good. It's fine. Let's negotiate an alliance with our uncle. Hopefully that will make him like us and start endorsing us for purposes of church holdings. Don't know that we really need these other alliances, which would be quite weak. We can ransom this person for the tiny amount of gold. As I mentioned before, you only get a quarter of the amount of gold from ransoms on very hard that you do on normal. So they're hardly worth it, but I guess 2 gold is better than no gold. And then we want to think about what a grand tour would look like. Do we even have any vassals? 2 vassals they can go to. So I don't know that that's worth it, unfortunately. The other thing I'd want to do is a pilgrimage to get our piety up and get our opinion with the Pope up. Normally, I would take a pilgrimage to Cologne here, the short pilgrimage, but as you can see, Cologne has a plague. You want to avoid plagues, so I think instead we'll be going to Rome. Let's max out the pomp. The Alps are very dangerous, so we want some mountaineers. Otherwise, there's a good chance we'll have an event that kills off some of our entourage members. We could think about hiring mercenary guards, but I'm not sure it's worth it. I'm hoping the mountaineers will be enough. We do want to customize the route there. The longer you take, the more events you get. It seems the more pious your pilgrimage is, and we also want to hit, particularly these sites that give us stewardship experience. Okay, that looks like the pilgrimage. Yeah, pilgrimage did increase our dangers by a decent amount, so let's go ahead and get the mercenaries. Again, try to be conservative, be on the safe side. We do have a fair amount of gold. Don't need the stress release, so let's just make our pilgrimage more pious. Again, don't need the stress release. Let's have our pilgrimage become more pious, get more piety, become more pious, so the Pope likes us and will let us divorce our wife. Okay, so now our liege is being attacked by the Almoravids and for Lotharingia. So our liege is about to lose Lotharingia in Germany to, the very large kingdoms within the HRE. The other big ones are Bavaria and Italy, though Germany is the largest, I think, by a significant amount. So we are starting to see the HRE be torn apart. So we'll let her, again, we talked about this before, we'll lose the Kingdom of Poland, which we're going to lose anyway, so just give it away. Frankly, I'm not terribly interested in joining this guy. I think we'll just decline. It's a bit unfortunate, but I mean, what we do want here is to, finish the ensure peace. If you accept a call to war from an ally, then it resets. So, this will give us the wise man trait, give us some more learning. Let us, or I guess we don't have enough learning to do that. So instead, we'll just do this option. So we did get, alerting, 1 point of alerting. Would have been better to get the wise man trait, but that's okay. We'll get my domain so we can demand more gold from our vassals. Now that we have filled out the architect tree, let's take a look at our domain and see where we want to start building. I think for this one, one option would be hospices, but I think we want to start looking into building military buildings and start increasing the power of our men-at-arms. Those men-at-arms are largely going to be heavy footmen. The Zabrajnosh, the special heavy footmen of the Czechs. And so this particular holding, you can get warrior lodges, which are pretty rare. So the question is, are these warrior lodges better than just getting straight barracks? It looks like the answer is no. So we will simply build barracks here. Here we do have the option of building farms and fields, so I think let's go ahead and do that instead of barracks. Get more gold. We are currently have a fascination with guilds in 14 years, so it should be within this character's lifetime. That should give us another building slot, and with those additional building slots, we want to look into military buildings, make our army stronger, and get into a better position to face threats and start conquest. So this one, I don't think either option really matters too much. I guess we could try this one. So we talked about this before. In a regular game of CK3, you can really get almost as many alliances as you want. I mean, I know the cutoff eventually you get 4 or 5 alliances. If you play on very hard, you only get one meaningful alliance. You only get to propose one meaningful alliance, meaning an alliance with someone outside your realm that you can call into your wars. But even if you have that one alliance, and we already do, the AI can still propose alliances to you. And so this is what's happening here. So this is an alliance we would not otherwise be able to do. The question is, do we want it? He does have a lot of gold, but his army, well, his army is quite low. I guess he has got crushed by something. See, our daughter, this is our daughter that doesn't have any genetic traits. I mean, I think let's accept it. We'll just have another alliance. Hopefully, don't get pulled into any wars, particularly before we can finish off the ensure peace. Yes, unfortunately, once that gave away Poland, now we have these other faction members. Including all our family members in Moravia. Don't know that we'll be able to bribe them enough. I mean, what we can always do is just give in to their demands. I think one sort of cheeky thing I will do is increase my crown authority to absolute. And by doing that, I can actually designate my oldest son as my heir. Very important. So we can get that out of the way. Now he gets everything. Get that out of the way. When they come to demand a reduction in my authority, it'll just go down to level 3. That's fine. That's the level we just had. And then, after 20 years or whatever, I'll go back up to level 4. So again, we're just going to give in to this, faction, something you often have to do, even in regular games, and particularly when you're playing on these most challenging difficulty levels. I don't really care about the opinion of a mayor. We will decline this because, again, we want to finish off our ensure peace oath. That's very important. And if we come to someone's aid, an ally's aid, that will reset the 5-year counter. Don't want to pay a huge amount of gold for a mediocre knight. Temple inspiration just really isn't that helpful. Let's become more pious. But speaking of knights, I think one thing I do want to pin now is invite knights, and probably have the goal to start getting some better knights for our court when we do engage in any conquest. So just looking in on the HRE's wars against great conquerors, currently have plus 7% against the Cumans. I assume that's simply because the Cuman army hasn't arrived in Germany yet. When it does, that'll change very quickly. And by contrast, there's minus 41%. You can see the Almoravid army here. It's about to come up here and obliterate the HRE's army. Here, again, we want more piety. Again, trying to divorce our wife. You can see that at least the HRE still has an army. It wasn't stacked right, but obviously not in great shape. Certainly lost the battle and are about to lose the war. I don't really want to let him go. I do kind of, obviously I do hate that he might come closer to forming a rivalry with me. But again, I think we have uh, our courtiers in place to try to prevent me from being murdered. So interesting that when I gave away the kingdom of Poland, this tiny piece of Poland did come back to the HRE. So we lost a bodyguard that we do want to replace. Probably automate our bodyguards. There's nothing particularly unique about them. We just really want the best person to be there at all times. We do need a caravan master, which we lost somehow. And that we continue. Let's check on our studying another language. And again, we want him to get a third trait naturally, which hopefully will be a decent one. I guess we could just give him brave now, or try to at least. Maybe that's the best thing to do. And that prevents him from us getting a choice that gives us 3 bad choices. I think it's the one choice you could do, like shy, paranoid, craven, something like that. That would all be bad choices, so we just avoid having to deal with that. I think let's do this one for the diplomacy potential. And again, our plan is we'll just give in to this Liberty faction when it fires. One of the most common things playing these high difficulty levels is Liberty factions. They just happen all the time. Every succession is going to have a powerful Liberty faction. It's just something that you have to deal with. Wow, so that is surprisingly lucky. We talked about wanting to divorce our wife, and it turns out that for some reason our tutor just murdered her. I think we'll say that we actually didn't see anything. Because again, we had frankly wanted to get rid of our wife. Not necessarily murdering her, of course, but just ideally just by divorcing her. We don't want any more stress, particularly stress that cause a mental break. We'll just take this at the potential of another intrigue point. I'm ill, but still in good health, so that's fine. Then when we get home, first thing we will look at is finding a new wife, potentially seeing if we want to do a grand marriage. Again, what we really want is a wife who's a genius. Failing that, we really want a wife who is intelligent. If you can't find either of those, then that's just really unfortunate. So about 2 more years before we fulfill our oath. See, we finally aren't facing any factions. We'll extort our subjects because they deserve it. So this is, I'm not sure I've seen this event. maybe ever, at least not very frequently. Oh, I see. Interesting. My concern here is I don't want to automatically marry someone who doesn't have uh, either intelligent or genius traits. Even if this woman is Herculean, which she might be, I just don't think I want to, um, be forced into a marriage with someone I don't pick. So I think we'll decline. That's kind of unfortunate because I don't think I've ever seen that event before, and I would be curious as to how it ends, but not curious enough to not get a good wife. Instead, we will hope that we can find our no geniuses. What about a grand wedding? Still no geniuses. And then we will try intelligent. Okay. Okay. So here we have, intelligent woman. You don't want to marry a lowborn if you can avoid it because that really hurts your legitimacy. This woman is from a noble house. She's, 1 year below marrying age. I think we have enough money that let's do a grand wedding. That does have a number of benefits. And so I think this looks like a good decision here. We will pin her up here. My brother who ruled, he was Lesser Poland, he just died. So our nephew now rules that area. It's always unclear to me when a great conqueror takes over a new kingdom, exactly who loses their titles and who keeps them. Because sometimes, I've been a duke playing in an area that gets conquered and lost my titles. Other times it seems I haven't. I've just become a vassal under the scourge conqueror. So you can see here, curiously, that the Cumans are, I guess Khazars, whichever you want to characterize them. Their armies still have not showed up to fight in their declared war for Germany. And so our liege is doing some sieges and has a significant benefit in war score so far. So we have this grand tournament available. We will go. Talked. Okay, we won't go because it's in a plague area. We talked before about how grand tournaments have a lot of benefits. You want to go to them as much as possible, but you also want to avoid becoming ill. So we will not do that. Just waiting a bit here because the issue with that is just a lot of gold, particularly for someone who is not long for this world. Don't really want the loss and maybe this is probably the best. This is probably the best option. A little bit of loss of control, making a few less gold each month, but it should come up. I have temples in all my domains. So this guy just has, amazing genetic traits at this point in the game. We definitely want to marry one of our children to him, or at least someone from our family to him. Let's keep him in, get him into our court, and have him marry someone from our family. Looks like all the options are quite young. I think let's have him marry our daughter, even though it's going to be quite a while. But as you can see, when I've been looking for a wife, there are just very few characters that have 2 good genetic traits the way that he did. Now we're ready for our grand wedding. I think since we have the money, let's go all out. Try to have a really good grand wedding. I think if you do have a very successful grand wedding, then you also get you'll get a decent amount of renown, which is otherwise very difficult to get. Getting close to our next dynasty legacy, we'll have to give some serious thought into what we want that legacy to be. We don't want to marry this guy to any mayors because he will then go join their court since they're rulers. Let's give him a non-ruler spouse that will then come to our court. And so finally the Cumans or Khazars have shown up to obliterate our liege's army. They can just absolutely stack wipe them, and so soon Germany will be under their control. And that will really weaken the HRE. And at that point we'll need to start thinking about becoming independent, and how we want to handle the rest of the game to protect ourselves the best. And now we're probably going to see, very likely to see, Italy break off. So I think this will be the end of this version of the HRE. Oldest daughter who did not have any genetic traits and is betrothed to the King of Sicily. Our grand wedding is starting here. I think it's good here to lose some stress, get a little bit of opinion. Don't think anything else is better. I guess we could lose more stress at the 4th option. He's not a ruler, so it's probably better just to lose more stress instead of forming a friendship with him. Want the option that's highest for giving us confident groom. Which we got. She got my soulmate, which is good. Now we really need to think about what do we want our next dynasty legacy to be. So we have the 3 main ones in blood, which is all good. We could, go with architected ancestry and pick the quick trait. I normally do not do that. Instead, just rely on marriages with characters with good genetic traits to get genius, Herculean, beautiful, and eventually strong-blooded. In my dynasty line. On normal, what I almost always do is go down the kin tree. Studious youth, getting better education traits, is more important than ever, given that your domain limit is based on your education. So this is, very powerful now. Close bonds helps if, particularly if, like me, you like to land your family members. House Paragon is very useful accolade because of the renown gain, and also letting your children, house members fight more as knights. And then graceful aging is just extraordinarily powerful. Though a little bit less so, since elder traits can knock down your prowess, even if you don't lose prowess just from getting older. That said, usually on these very challenging settings, I go down warfare with the plan being um, that I want my armies and ability to wage war to be as powerful as possible for fighting the AI, which gets all these advantages in terms of being able to hire mercenaries and so forth. And as you can see, our current child and heir, we are raising him as military, and he was bossy, so we had the choice to either marshal and stewardship. Wanted to make him marshal because, likely from here on out, probably all our character is going to be marshal, or certainly we will have a preference for that. And so I think, stick with my standard plan, and we will go down, fully this warfare tree, and then almost certainly do kin after that. So we just have to rely on our excellent tutors to hopefully give our children the appropriate level of high education. Hopefully 4 stars each time. I think one day I'll play some sort of evil run or joke run and say I don't, to see what happens with that decision, but otherwise it's always best to do. So for this one, don't want to form a rival with my wife. I would like to have a friendship with her. Looks like the best way to do that is the 4th option here. This is just straight up. So, rather have stewardship experience than diplomacy. So it's 100 for each. So we'll go with stewardship. If we had a 3rd accolade slot, we could have this guy become, you get the Vanguard accolade, which is, very powerful, but we don't at the moment. I'd probably, if we were to max out everything we want in the stewardship tree, I'd probably go learning next. Doubt I'll go diplomacy, so let's go with the learning experience. Just more useful to us. With that said, the chance of getting a diplomacy perk, even if it's just a coin flip, too good to pass up. So we go for that. We do. Options here really are to get a heart of the family, and then get groomed to rule. Groomed to rule is very strong in terms of giving extra points to our children. The conservative pick, I think I'll go with, is thoughtful. If you have rebellious vassals, you can just send them gifts to have them like you, and leave any factions. We do still have a good bit of gold and are making a lot of gold. So this is, all these notifications are because Cumans, Khazars did finish their war against the HRE and took Germany. So some of our rivals who opposed us at our coronation, we get some Schadenfreude because they have lost all their titles now. You can see at this point, well, you see, that the Kaiser lost all of his domain holdings, and he ended up. That happens if you're a liege. If you lose all your domain holdings, you get, one domain holding somewhere in the realm that you still control. Ended up going to Berlin, several hundred years early. But you can see he's actually weaker than we are now. He still has a pretty good army. He has the retinue vanguard, which arguably I should have gone for that instead of valiant, but I think we do have to be cognizant that our allies are within the HRE, so we're not going to be able to call them against him. But I think at this point we do want to start seriously thinking about whether we want to form an independence faction against him. Unfortunately, there aren't any others at the moment. I guess he must have won his war against this Sicilian and Italian peasant faction. I had thought, yeah, I guess he did. Okay. I had thought he would lose these territories, which would have been beneficial to us if we plan on splitting off from him. So, choices either way, diplomacy, lifestyle. So, usually go with this option for stress relief. Don't really want to get stressed. We'll just go with the middle one. Usually, I have better chances of success on that, but it's what it is. I still did prevail. We have nudity filter turned on. We'll definitely take this top option. And we see we get a lot of prestige, a little bit of renown, various other benefits. So I think worth all the gold we spent on our grand wedding. And I think with the grand wedding we will call it for this episode. Again, we really have some things to think about in terms of. Let's check, make sure we have. I think let's start a. Oh, she's already our soulmate, so we don't. Yeah, we can't start a romance scheme against her. Okay. But yeah, I think with what we've done here, time to call the episode. We really have some things to think about, especially in terms of, can we declare independence from the HRE? Do we want to do that? It's not looking great for the HRE, frankly. Early in the game, somewhat surprisingly, the HRE had actually expanded. Had most obviously gotten Sicily. We had taken Poland. But currently, things just aren't looking good for it. I guess before we call it, let's take a look at the world map more generally and see that this guy from the Khazars, the Kuman, is still alive. Now Moravid, Great Conqueror, Scourge Conqueror, still alive, but he's starting to accumulate elder traits. So see when he dies and how that shakes out. Interestingly, the Great Conqueror, Scourge Conqueror of Great Liao has really been pounding, or at least occasionally attacking China, which rarely happens. It seems like for whatever reason, Great Conquerors don't like attacking a unified China. I think maybe it's because of the size of their army scare them off. But this guy from Great Liao has taken a fair amount of territory from the Song, so that's a bit surprising. You see the Ghaznavids, I believe, are the only realm that starts with a Great Conqueror in this start date, but they have obviously lost their Scourge Conqueror, still ruling a quite large empire. This one still have a Scourge Conqueror, still Scourge Conqueror here, peasant revolt leader. So anyway, okay, thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.